The Valdine fleet appeared in Earth's outer space like a wall of metal and lights. 200 warships hung in the darkness near Titan Station, their hulls decorated with symbols of conquest. Each ship was massive, designed to make anyone who saw them feel small and afraid. The Valdine Empire had ruled 300 star systems for over 1,000 years, and they had never lost a war. Ambassador Velthar stepped onto Titan Station with confidence. He was tall, with blue-gray skin and forearms that moved with practiced grace. His ceremonial armor gleamed under the station's lights. Behind him, his guards carried a golden tablet inscribed with the Emperor's decree. The humans who met him in the docking bay looked tiny in comparison, dressed in simple military uniforms without any decoration. "I bring words from Emperor Thaxivor, ruler of the Valdine Empire," Velthar announced. His voice echoed in the large space. "Humanity will submit to Valdine authority. You will pay tribute. You will accept our governors. You will become part of the Empire. These terms are generous. Accept them, or your species will be destroyed." The human officer standing before him was Admiral Tae Sung, commander of the Terran Third Fleet. He was in his 60s, with gray hair and calm eyes that showed nothing. He took the golden tablet and read it without any change in his expression. Beside him stood Captain Hana, his tactical officer. She was younger, maybe in her 30s, with sharp eyes that studied everything about the Valdine delegation. "We will consider your message," Tae Sung said quietly. "Return to your ships. We will send our answer within 24 hours. Velthar's face showed surprise. He had expected fear or anger or desperate negotiations. This calm response confused him. "You understand what refusal means?" he asked. "The Valdine Empire has crushed civilizations larger than yours." "We understand," Tae Sung replied. "You will have our answer soon." After the Valdine left, Tae Sung and Hana walked through the station's corridors toward the command center. Other officers saluted as they passed. The station was busy with activity. Technicians worked on equipment. Soldiers moved between posts. Everything looked normal, like this was just another day. "They really think we'll surrender," Hana said as they entered the command center. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and data streams. Officers worked at their stations, monitoring everything happening in the system. Tai Sung sat in his chair and brought up information on his personal screen. "The Valdine studied our public records. They counted our colonies. They know we control 73 systems. They saw our registered military vessels. By their math, we have maybe 500 ships. They have thousands across their empire. They did good research," Hana admitted. "On the information we let them find." "Exactly." Tae Sung pulled up another file. This one showed different numbers. Real numbers. The public shipyards that built ships in plain view were real enough. But the hidden construction facilities scattered through asteroid belts, inside hollowed-out moons, and in deep space installations didn't appear on any public census. Humanity had learned long ago that secrets were valuable. Lieutenant Dae-hyun approached from his station. He was young, barely 25, with nervous energy that made him move quickly. "Sir, the Valdine fleet is maintaining position at 20,000 kilometers. They're scanning everything. Our ships, the station, even the nearby asteroids." "Let them scan," Tae Sung said. "They'll see exactly what we want them to see." "Should I prepare the Third Fleet for deployment?" Hana asked. "Yes. We'll meet them at the neutral zone in 72 hours. Tae Sung's voice was steady, like he was ordering breakfast instead of preparing for battle. "Just the Third Fleet, sir?" Ensign Bo-Ra spoke up from the communication station. She had been with the fleet for 3 years and knew the standard procedures. "For a threat this big, Command usually called in multiple fleets. For now," Tae Sung said. He looked at the screen showing the Valdine ships. "No need to overwhelm them immediately. Let's see what they can do first." Over the next 24 hours, Titan Station sent Earth's response. It was short and simple. "Humanity declines the Valdine Empire's terms. We claim sovereignty over our territory. We wish to maintain peaceful relations, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." Velthar read the message aboard his flagship with disbelief. "They refuse? 200 of our ships sit at their doorstep and they refuse." His tactical officer studied his own screens. "Ambassador, our scans show only limited military presence in this system. Perhaps they don't understand our power. Then we will teach them," Velthar decided. "Send word to War Chief Calmost. Inform him that humanity has rejected the Emperor's generous offer. Military action is authorized. The message traveled through Valdine communication networks. War Chief Calmost, commander of the Second Fleet, received his orders aboard the dreadnought Eternal Victory. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, and he had never seen an enemy refuse Valdine terms. Usually, just showing up with 200 ships was enough to make anyone surrender. Curious, he muttered, studying the data about humanity. They have fought wars among themselves. Their history shows constant conflict, but they've never faced a real empire before. Should we destroy their colonies, War Chief? His second-in-command asked. No. The Emperor wants them as subjects, not corpses. We'll meet their military forces and crush them. Then they'll understand. Calmost pointed at the star map. Here, the neutral zone between their space and ours. We'll gather there. Let them bring whatever ships they have. Back on Titan Station, Lieutenant Sang-Woo sat in the pilot's ready room with other fighter pilots. He was checking his spacecraft systems, making sure everything worked perfectly. His friend Ji-Won sat nearby, doing the same. You think we'll actually fight? Ji-Won asked. Or will they surrender when they see the whole Third Fleet? Don't know, Sang-Woo said. Command seems calm about it. That usually means they have a plan. Commander Young-Mi entered the room. She was their squadron leader, a veteran with 15 years of flight experience. All pilots, listen up. We're deploying to the neutral zone in 48 hours. The Valdine fleet will be there. Our orders are to escort the capital ships and provide fighter support if needed. How many Valdine ships? Someone asked. Intel says 200, maybe more. Young-Mi's expression didn't change. We'll have 12 capital ships. The room went quiet. 12 against 200 seemed impossible. But Young-Mi didn't look worried, and that meant something. Pilots learned to read their commanders. If Young-Mi was calm, there was a reason. Get some rest, she said. This might be interesting. Across human space, the word spread quietly. The Valdine Empire had challenged Earth. War was coming. But in military bases, on ships, and in command centers, humans weren't afraid. They were preparing. They were checking weapons. They were reviewing tactics. And some of them were grinning. Because the Valdine had made the same mistake that so many others had made throughout human history. They had counted the visible forces. They had measured the obvious strength. They had calculated based on what they could see. And they had decided that humanity was weak. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taesung looked at the deployment orders one last time before sending them. 12 ships, against 200. The Valdine would think humans were either insane or desperate. They would expect Earth to bring every ship they had, pulling vessels from defensive positions everywhere. They wouldn't expect 12 ships to be enough. They couldn't imagine that those 12 ships were just a test, a measurement, a way to see what the Valdine could do. And they definitely wouldn't expect what would happen when humanity decided to stop being polite and start being serious. Taesung signed the orders and sent them. Captain Hana stood beside him, watching the Valdine fleet on the long-range sensors. Think they'll learn? She asked quietly. Eventually, Taesung replied. The question is how much pain they need before the lesson sinks in. The countdown began. 72 hours until the fleets met. 72 hours until the Valdine Empire learned that humanity wasn't another weak species to be conquered. 72 hours until everything changed. The neutral zone was empty space between Valdine territory and human colonies. No planets existed here, just asteroids and dust clouds floating in the darkness. It was perfect for a battle. No civilians would get hurt. No planets would be damaged. Just ships and weapons and the vacuum of space. War Chief Calmost arrived first with his 200 warships. They took formation in a pattern the Valdine had used for centuries. The biggest ships in the center, surrounded by layers of smaller vessels. It looked like a fortress made of metal and weapons. His sensors scanned everything within 1,000,000 kilometers, watching for the human fleet. Anything? He asked his sensor officer. Nothing yet, War Chief. Wait, I'm detecting something. The officer's voice showed confusion. I count 12 contacts. 12 ships approaching at standard speed. 12? Calmo stood from his command chair. Scan again. Find the rest of their fleet. The officer worked frantically at his console. Sir, I'm scanning everywhere. Behind the nearby moon and the asteroid field, even checking for ships in stealth mode. There are only 12 ships. Nothing else. Calmo stared at his tactical display. This made no sense. Humanity controlled 73 systems. They had to have hundreds of ships. Why send only 12 against 200? They're stalling. They're waiting for reinforcements. Maintain battle readiness but hold position. We'll give them 1 hour to bring their full fleet. Aboard the TFS Indomitable, Admiral Tae-sung sat in his command chair, watching the Valdine formation on his screens. The human ship was massive, nearly a kilometer long with weapons built into every surface. Around it, 11 other ships maintained perfect formation. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, containing technology that had taken centuries to develop. Lieutenant Dae-hyun monitored the communications from his station. "Sir, the Valdine are scanning continuously. They keep searching for more ships." "Let them search," Tae-sung said. "Captain Hana, status report." Hana checked her tactical systems. Everything showed green. "All weapons ready. Shields at full power. Point defense systems active. All ships report ready for combat." "The Valdine commander is sending us a message," Ensign Bo-ra reported. "He's asking where the rest of our fleet is. He says he'll give us 1 hour to bring reinforcements." Tae-sung almost smiled. "Almost. Send a reply. Inform War Chief Kalmos that we are ready to begin. 12 ships are sufficient for this engagement." Bo-ra typed the message and sent it. Then she looked at the Admiral with wide eyes. "Sir, they're going to think we're crazy." "That's fine," Tae-sung replied. "Better they underestimate us." On the Eternal Victory, Kalmos read the human message 3 times. "Sufficient. 12 ships against 200? These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "They mock us," he growled. "They send 12 ships and claim it's enough. We'll teach them respect. All ships attack formation." The Valdine fleet moved like a living thing. 200 ships advanced, their weapons charging, their shields glowing with power, fighter craft launched by the hundreds, swarming forward like insects. This was the might that had conquered 300 systems. This was the power that had never known defeat. The 12 human ships didn't run. They didn't even slow down. They kept moving forward at the same steady speed, heading straight into the Valdine fleet. "They're insane," Kalmos, second-in-command, whispered. "No," Kalmos said slowly. "They're confident. But confidence without power is just foolishness." "Fire when in range." The Valdine fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma cannons lit up the darkness. Energy beams and missiles flew toward the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a city, all focused on 12 targets. The human shields came alive. They glowed blue then white, absorbing the incoming fire. The energy weapons hit the shields and scattered like water hitting stone. The missiles exploded uselessly against the defensive barriers. When the light cleared, all 12 human ships were still there, still advancing, completely undamaged. "Impossible," Kalmos breathed. "Nothing has shields that strong." Then the humans fired back. The first Valdine ship exploded in seconds. The second followed moments later. The human weapons were different from anything Kalmos had seen. They fired concentrated beams that cut through Valdine shields like they weren't even there. They launched missiles that moved impossibly fast and never missed. They had point defense systems that shot down incoming fire before it could even get close. Lieutenant Dae-hyun watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded. "The Valdine fighters are trying to overwhelm us. 300 craft incoming." "Point defense, handle it," Captain Hana ordered calmly. The Indomitable's defensive systems activated. Dozens of small turrets tracked the incoming fighters with perfect accuracy. Each turret had its own artificial intelligence, calculating angles and speeds faster than any living being could think. The Valdine fighters flew into a wall of laser fire. They started exploding before they got within firing range. In the fighter bay, Lieutenant Sang-woo sat in his cockpit ready to launch. He watched the external cameras as the capital ships destroyed wave after wave of enemy fighters. "We're not even needed," he said over the squadron channel. "Stay ready," Commander Youngmi replied. "If anything gets through, we'll handle it." But nothing got through. The human point defense was too good. The capital ships were too strong. The Valdine kept firing, kept attacking, and kept dying. Kalmos watched his fleet fall apart. In 4 minutes, he had lost 37 ships. 37. His weapons couldn't hurt the human ships. His fighters couldn't get close. His strongest attacks did nothing. This wasn't a battle. This was a massacre. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Full speed return to Valdine space." The remaining Valdine ships turned and ran. Their formation broke apart as each captain tried to save his own vessel. Some ships were too damaged to escape and drifted in space, their crews sending distress signals. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Tae-sung watched the Valdine fleet flee. All ships cease fire. Hana, damage report. Minor shield damage on the Defiant and Resolute. Already regenerating. No hull damage on any vessel. 0 casualties. Hana looked at the tactical display showing the fleeing enemy. They lasted 4 minutes. Sir, should we pursue? Daehyun asked. No, we made our point. Tae-sung stood from his chair. Bora, send a message to the Valdine fleet. Tell them we're dispatching medical ships to help their damaged vessels. We'll evacuate survivors and return them to Valdine space. Ensign Bora looked surprised. Sir, they attacked us. We're going to help them? They're beaten. There's no honor in letting wounded beings die in space. Tae-sung looked at his crew. We're not monsters. We're just better prepared than they expected. In the rec room later, Lieutenant Sang-woo and Ji-won watched replays of the battle. They still hadn't launched their fighters. The capital ships had handled everything. Feels wrong, Sang-woo muttered. We train for years and then we just sit in our cockpits while the big ships do everything. Ji-won shrugged. They attacked us. They thought they could conquer humanity with 200 ships. We showed them why that was a mistake. Be glad it was this easy. You think they'll come back? Probably. Empires don't like losing. They'll bring more ships next time. A lot more ships. Ji-won stood up and stretched. But that's Command's problem. We just fly when they tell us to fly. Across the Valdine Empire, news of the defeat spread quickly. Emperor Thaxivor received the reports in his throne room. His advisors stood silent, afraid to speak. The Grand Armada had been embarrassed by 12 human ships. 12, how many ships does humanity really have? The Emperor asked quietly. His voice was soft, but everyone heard the anger underneath. Unknown, Majesty, his intelligence chief admitted. We thought we knew. We were wrong. Then find out, Thaxivor ordered. And prepare the Grand Armada, all of it. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. If humanity wants war, we'll give them war. But this time, we'll bring enough force to crush them completely. Prince Vextal, the Emperor's heir, listened from his position beside the throne. He was young, and he had never seen his father this angry. Father, perhaps we should negotiate. If they're this strong, no. Thaxivor slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. The Valdine Empire does not negotiate from weakness. We will gather our strength, and we will show these humans what it means to defy us. Send the word. Mobilize everything. We go to war. The Valdine Grand Armada gathered above the Empire's capital world. Over 1,200 warships, the largest military force the Empire had assembled in 2 centuries. Dreadnoughts 3 kilometers long served as mobile fortresses. Cruisers and destroyers formed supporting waves. Carrier ships held thousands of fighter craft. This wasn't just an army. This was meant to be the end of humanity's resistance. Emperor Thaxivor stood on the bridge of his command dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion. Beside him stood Prince Vextal, brought here to witness humanity's defeat. The Emperor wanted his heir to learn about power, about what happens when someone challenges the Valdine Empire. This is excessive. Father, Vextal said quietly, looking at the fleet assembled around them. 1,200 ships against a species that controls only 73 systems? They defeated our second fleet with only 12 ships, Thaxivor replied. We underestimated them once. We won't make that mistake again. When we arrive in human space, there will be no doubt about the outcome. On Earth, the Terran Defense Council met in a secure facility beneath Geneva. Minister Yunji, head of the council, brought the meeting to order. She was in her 60s, a former fleet commander who had fought in humanity's last great civil war before the species unified under one government. Intelligence confirms the Valdine are bringing everything, she announced. Over 1,200 ships, multiple dreadnoughts. They're treating this as a total war situation. Director Hyunwoo from Naval Intelligence brought up holographic displays showing the Valdine fleet. He was quiet and careful, the kind of person who noticed everything. Our scouts report they've studied our tactics from the first engagement. They believe they've found weaknesses in our point defense systems. They're wrong, but they don't know that yet. Admiral Tae-sung attended the meeting via holographic link from the Indomitable. Recommendations? He asked. Minister Yunji looked around the table. The question is how we respond. We can defeat 1,200 ships with what we have. The question is what message we send. If we bring too few forces, they might think they still have a chance. If we bring too many, we reveal more of our true military strength than we might want. Admiral Insu, commander of the Home Fleet, spoke up. He was known for aggressive tactics and direct action. We should crush them completely. Show the galaxy what happens when someone attacks humanity. Or we could be more subtle, Admiral Taesung countered. We bring 3 fleets, 900 ships. We'll still be outnumbered, which makes them feel confident. Then we win anyway. That sends a stronger message than overwhelming force. Director Hyunwoo nodded. I agree with Taesung. If we win while outnumbered, it demonstrates technological superiority. That's more intimidating than just having more ships. 3 fleets then, Minister Yoonji decided. The 3rd, 7th, and 12th. Admiral Taesung will command overall operations. But I want additional assets in position. Stealth ships, mobile repair facilities, and full electronic warfare support. We win this battle decisively. And after we win? Vextal asked. The Valdine won't surrender easily. This could turn into a long war. That's a problem for after the battle, Yoonji said. First we show them they can't win. Then we figure out how to make peace. The orders went out across human space. The 7th Fleet, stationed near the colony world of New Horizon, received deployment orders. The 12th Fleet, protecting the inner systems, began moving toward the neutral zone. Supply ships, medical vessels, and support craft all mobilized. From the outside, it looked like humanity was gathering everything they had. From the inside, it was just another military operation. Captain Hana walked through the Indomitable's corridors, checking on different departments. In engineering, technicians calibrated the ship's weapons for maximum efficiency. In medical, doctors prepared for potential casualties. In the fighter bay, pilots ran last-minute checks on their craft. Lieutenant Sang-woo was in his cockpit when Hana arrived. Ready for combat, Lieutenant? She asked. Yes, ma'am, Sang-woo replied. Think we'll actually see action this time? Maybe. They're bringing a lot more ships. Even with our defenses, some might get through. Hana looked at the rows of fighters being prepared. Stay sharp. Follow Commander Youngmi's orders. Don't try to be a hero. Understood, ma'am. After Hana left, Jiwon's voice came over the squadron channel. Captain seems worried. She's always worried, Sang-woo replied. That's her job. Ours is to fly when they tell us to fly and shoot what they tell us to shoot. Deep philosophy there, Jiwon said with a laugh. The 7th Fleet arrived first. 63 ships under the command of Admiral Bo Young. She was one of humanity's youngest admirals, promoted after brilliant tactical thinking during a pirate suppression campaign. Her fleet took position on the left flank of the growing formation. The 12th Fleet followed, commanded by Admiral Insu himself. He brought 78 ships, including some of humanity's newest vessels. They took position on the right flank. In the center, Admiral Taesung's 3rd Fleet held the line. 59 ships, veterans of multiple engagements, crews that had worked together for years. The Indomitable sat at the heart of the formation, its weapons ready, its shields charged, its crew prepared. Lieutenant Dae-hyun coordinated communications between the 3 fleets. All ships report ready, sir. We have 912 vessels in total. Shields online, weapons hot, point defense active. And the Valdine? Taesung asked. They're entering the neutral zone now. Initial count confirms over 1,200 ships. They're maintaining tight formation, probably trying to overwhelm us with concentrated firepower. Ensign Bora added from her station. Sir, we're receiving multiple messages from the Valdine fleet. They're demanding we surrender. They're promising mercy if we submit now. No response, Taesung ordered. Let them wonder. Captain Hana studied the tactical displays. The Valdine formation was textbook perfect, the kind of thing taught in military academies across the galaxy. Solid, reliable, proven over centuries of warfare. It would work well against conventional forces. Humanity's forces weren't conventional. Deploy the stealth ships, Taesung ordered. I want them positioned inside the Valdine formation before the battle starts. And activate the quantum mines. Let's make sure they can't retreat easily this time. Throughout the battle space, 60 stealth ships moved silently. They used technology the Valdine couldn't detect. Quantum field manipulation that bent light and sensor beams around their hulls. They were invisible ghosts, drifting closer and closer to the Valdine fleet. At the same time, small drones scattered through the space behind the Valdine positions. Each drone carried a quantum entangled mine, weapons that would activate on command and create localized gravity wells. They would prevent quick retreat and scatter enemy formations. Emperor Thaxivor watched the human fleet from his command throne. They brought 900 ships, good. They're taking us seriously, but we still outnumber them. This will be our victory. They defeated 200 ships with only 12, Prince Vextal reminded him quietly. Those were unprepared forces who underestimated the enemy. We are prepared. We have studied their tactics. We know their ships are strong, so we'll attack from multiple directions simultaneously. We'll overwhelm their defenses with sheer numbers. The Emperor stood. Signal the fleet. Begin the attack. The Valdine Grand Armada moved forward. 1,200 ships advancing in perfect formation. Fighters launched in swarms. Weapons charged. Shields glowed with power. This was the moment the Empire would remind the galaxy why they were feared. The human fleet didn't move. They waited, calm and ready as the Valdine Armada approached. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taesung watched the enemy fleet close the distance. When they reached optimal firing range, he gave a simple order. All ships weapons free. Show them what humanity can do. The battle was about to begin, and the Valdine had no idea what they were really facing. The first Valdine salvo lit up the darkness like a newborn star. Thousands of weapons fired simultaneously, filling space with energy beams, plasma bolts, and missiles. It was the kind of coordinated attack that had broken countless civilizations. The wall of destructive power rushed toward the human fleet with unstoppable force. The human shields absorbed everything. 900 ships glowed white-hot as their defensive fields took the impact. But when the light faded, every single vessel remained intact. Not one ship had been destroyed. Not one shield had failed. On the Eternal Dominion, Emperor Thaxivor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How are they doing this? His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. Majesty, their shield technology is beyond our understanding. Our sensors can't even measure the energy levels properly. It's like they're using physics we don't know. Prince Vextal felt cold fear creeping up his spine. His father had brought the entire might of the Empire, and it wasn't enough. The humans just stood there, taking everything the Valdine could throw, and they didn't even look damaged. Then humanity fired back, and the Valdine learned what real firepower looked like. The TFS Indomitable unleashed its main batteries. 8 massive cannons fired concentrated particle beams that cut through Valdine shields like they were made of paper. Each beam tracked a different target, and each target exploded within seconds. Around the Indomitable, the other human ships opened fire with the same deadly precision. Captain Hana watched the battle unfold from her tactical station. Targeting Cruiser Cluster 7. Point Defense is tracking 300 incoming fighters, shields at 98% and recharging. Lieutenant Daehyun's hands flew across his console. Sir, the Valdine are trying to overwhelm individual sectors. They're concentrating fire on the ships in formation Delta 3. Let them try, Admiral Taesung said calmly. All ships maintain formation. Coordinate fire with neighboring vessels. Don't let them separate us. The human fleet fought like a single organism. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was at all times, thanks to quantum-entangled communication systems that updated faster than light. When a Valdine formation tried to flank one human ship, 3 others were already repositioning to support. When enemy fighters swarmed toward a target, point defense systems from multiple ships created overlapping fields of fire that nothing could survive. In the fighter bay, Lieutenant Sang-woo finally got his launch orders. All pilots, launch! Formation Epsilon, protect the Resolute. They're taking concentrated fire from Valdine destroyers. Sang-woo's fighters screamed out of the bay into the chaos of battle. Space around him was filled with explosions, energy beams, and debris from destroyed ships. He checked his instruments and formed up with his squadron. Stay tight, Commander Youngmi ordered over the squadron channel. The Resolute has shields, but those destroyers are trying to overwhelm them. We take out the destroyers. Ji-won's fighter pulled up beside Sang-woo's. Like old times, she said with forced cheerfulness. We've never done this before, Sang-woo replied. Well, like new times then. The squadron dove toward the Valdine destroyers. These were medium-sized ships, each one carrying enough weapons to destroy a small city. 6 of them had focused their fire on the human cruiser Resolute, trying to collapse its shields through sheer concentrated power. Youngmi led the attack run. Fire on my mark. Target the lead destroyer's engines. 3, 2, 1 mark. 20 human fighters fired simultaneously. Their weapons were small compared to capital ship guns, but they were incredibly precise. The missiles they launched had their own guidance systems, each one capable of adjusting its flight path thousands of times per second. The Valdine destroyer's point defense tried to shoot them down and failed. 20 missiles hit the destroyer's engine section within seconds of each other. The destroyer's engines exploded, sending the ship spinning out of control. It crashed into another Valdine destroyer, creating a massive explosion that damaged 3 more ships. "Good kill," young me called out. "Reform and target the next one." Back on the Indomitable, Ensign Bora was monitoring communications across the entire battlefield. "Sir, the Valdine are requesting retreat authorization from their command ship. Multiple captains are reporting critical damage." "How long have we been fighting?" Taesung asked. 11 minutes, sir." "And our casualties?" Captain Hana checked her reports. 0 deaths. 43 ships report minor damage. The Defiant took a direct hit that temporarily knocked out its secondary weapons, but they're back online now. "That's it." Taesung nodded slowly. "The Valdine have lost." "How many ships?" 216 confirmed destroyed, Daehyun reported. "Another 150 showing critical damage. They're effectively at half strength. And we haven't even used the stealth ships yet," Hana added quietly. Admiral Insu's voice came over the command channel. "Taesung, should we activate the surprise? I think they need another lesson." "Agreed," Taesung replied. "All stealth ships drop camouflage. Execute attack pattern Omega." Throughout the Valdine formation, 60 ships suddenly appeared where nothing had been before. The Valdine sensor officers screamed warnings, but there was no time to react. The stealth ships had positioned themselves perfectly inside the enemy formation, behind their shields inside their defensive perimeter. The quantum mines activated simultaneously, creating gravity wells that scattered the Valdine formation and prevented coordinated retreat. Ships that were trying to pull back suddenly found themselves being pulled in different directions. Formations collapsed. Carefully planned tactics fell apart. The stealth ships opened fire from point-blank range. Valdine ships started exploding from attacks they couldn't defend against because the human ships were already inside their defenses. On the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Officers shouted reports. Alarms blared. Damage notifications scrolled faster than anyone could read them. "They were inside our formation," someone yelled. "How did they get inside our formation?" Emperor Thaxivor gripped the arms of his command throne, his knuckles white. This couldn't be happening. The Grand Armada, the pride of the Empire, was being destroyed by a smaller force. The humans weren't just winning. They were dominating. They were making the Valdine look like amateurs. "Father, we have to retreat," Prince Vextal urged. "We can't win this battle. We outnumber them." Thaxivor shouted. "We have more ships. Numbers don't matter if they can destroy us this easily. Father, please, order a retreat before we lose everything." The tactical officer approached the throne carefully. "Majesty, we've lost 416 ships. Every dreadnought is either destroyed or critically damaged. If we don't retreat now, we won't have a fleet left to retreat with." Emperor Thaxivor looked at his displays one more time. The human fleet was barely damaged. His own forces were burning wreckage. This was supposed to be a demonstration of Valdine power. Instead, it had become a demonstration of Valdine weakness. "All ships," he said quietly, his voice heavy with defeat. "Retreat. Return to Valdine space. Maximum speed." The remaining Valdine ships turned and fled. Some were too damaged to escape and drifted in space, their crews sending desperate distress signals. Others limped away on damaged engines, hoping to reach safety before their systems failed completely. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taesung watched the Valdine fleet run. "All ships cease fire. Do not pursue. Begin rescue operations for damaged enemy vessels." "Sir?" Daehyun looked confused.
"We're helping them?"
"We beat them. That's enough." Taesung stood from his command chair. "They're defeated, not evil. Their crews are following orders just like we are. Bora, send a message to all Valdine ships. Tell them we're sending medical vessels to evacuate their wounded. No tricks, no captures. Just humanitarian assistance." In the Resolute's medical bay, doctors prepared to receive wounded from both sides. In the fighter bay, Sang-woo and his squadron returned from their mission, all pilots accounted for. Across the human fleet, damage control teams worked on minor repairs while rescue ships launched to help the defeated enemy. The Battle of the Neutral Zone was over. The Valdine Grand Armada had been shattered. Humanity had proven its strength beyond any doubt. But the real question remained: what would happen next? Would the Valdine accept defeat and seek peace? Or would this just make them more desperate and dangerous? The journey back to the Valdine homeworld was the longest trip Emperor Thaxfor had ever made. The Eternal Dominion limped through space with damaged engines, surrounded by the remnants of what had been the Grand Armada. Of the 1,200 ships that had left in glory, fewer than 600 returned. The rest were destroyed, captured, or left as floating wreckage in the neutral zone. Prince Vextal stood beside his father on the bridge, watching the stars pass by. Neither spoke. What could they say? The Empire had been humiliated. The mighty Valdine, who had conquered 300 systems, had been crushed by humanity with seemingly no effort. They sent medical ships, Vextal said finally. They rescued our wounded. They could have let them die or taken them prisoner. Instead, they saved them and sent them home. Mercy from a position of strength, Thaxfor replied bitterly. They're showing us how completely they've won. They can afford to be generous because we're no threat to them. Or maybe they're just not like us. Maybe they actually care about life, even enemy life. Vextal looked at his father. We need to accept reality. We can't defeat them, not with military force. We need to find another way. On Earth, the Terran Defense Council met once again. This time, the mood was different. The military question had been answered. Humanity could defend itself. Now came the harder part, building peace. Minister Yunji opened the meeting. The Valdine have requested negotiations. Emperor Thaxfor himself will participate via secure communication. The question before us is simple: what do we want? Admiral Insu spoke first. They attacked us twice. They brought their entire military force to conquer us. We should demand reparations, territory, maybe even regime change. Director Hyunwoo shook his head. If we push too hard, we create a permanent enemy. The Valdine Empire is old and proud. Humiliate them too much, and they'll spend the next century plotting revenge. We need to give them a way to save face. Save face? Insu looked angry. They tried to conquer us. And we beat them, Admiral Taesung interjected calmly. Twice, everyone knows it. The whole galaxy watched. We don't need to rub it in. We need to be smart about this. A new voice spoke from the back of the room. Ambassador Min Seo had just arrived from her post on the Galactic Council. She was experienced in dealing with alien psychology and cultures. May I make a suggestion? Minister Yunji nodded. Please. We've demonstrated our military strength. What if we now demonstrate something the Valdine don't expect? Magnanimity, generosity, wisdom. Min Seo walked to the front of the room. The Valdine expected us to be either weaklings who surrendered or conquerors who would crush them. Let's be neither. Let's be something they can't comprehend. Victors who choose peace. Explain, Unji said. We offer them a treaty as equals, not as victors demanding tribute, but as two powers establishing mutual borders. We provide them with defensive technology to help rebuild their fleet. We open trade negotiations. We show them that humanity's strength isn't just military. It's also diplomatic and moral. Captain Hana, attending via hologram from the Indomitable, spoke up. The Valdine respect strength. Won't they see mercy as weakness? Not if we frame it correctly, Min Seo replied. We make it clear that we could destroy them, but we choose not to. That's power. We show them that the smart choice, the strong choice, is peace. That's the message the rest of the galaxy needs to see too. Director Hyunwoo nodded slowly. I like it. We've broken their military power. Now we show them why they should prefer us as friends rather than enemies. What about reparations? Admiral Insu asked. They damaged our ships. They killed people in the first battle. Medical and technological exchange, Min Seo suggested. Instead of demanding payment, we share certain technologies that help both species. Defensive shields, medical advances, agricultural improvements. Nothing that threatens us, but enough to help them rebuild. Minister Yunji considered this. It's unusual. Most species would demand total surrender or exact revenge, but maybe that's exactly why it will work. If we want to be a major galactic power, we need to show we're different from the other empires. Then we're agreed? Taesung asked. Let's see what the Emperor says, Yunji decided. Set up the communication. Let's talk to the Valdine. The negotiation took place 3 days later. A secure quantum-entangled link connected Earth's command center with the Valdine. Imperial Palace. Emperor Thaxfor appeared on the massive display screen, his face showing the stress of recent defeats. Prince Vextal stood beside him. Minister Yunji represented humanity. with Ambassador Minseo to handle diplomatic nuances. Admiral Tae-sung attended to provide military perspective if needed. Emperor Thaxivor, Yunji began formally. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us. The Emperor's expression was carefully neutral. You have destroyed my fleets twice. You have proven your military superiority beyond question. I assume you are here to dictate terms of surrender. Actually, no, Yunji replied. We're here to propose a treaty between equals. Thaxivor blinked in surprise. Equals? You defeated us decisively. You could demand anything. We could, Ambassador Minseo agreed. But what would that accomplish? We'd gain temporary satisfaction and create a permanent enemy. Humanity prefers to build rather than destroy when possible. What are your terms? Prince Vextal asked carefully. 3 conditions, Yunji stated. First, the Valdine Empire recognizes human sovereignty over our current territories. No more attempts at conquest or forced annexation. Second, we establish formal diplomatic relations and open trade negotiations. Third, we share certain defensive technologies to help both our peoples. Emperor Thaxivor looked suspicious. You would share technology? With an empire that just tried to conquer you? Defensive technology only, Director Hyunwoo clarified. Improved shield systems, medical advances, sensor improvements. Nothing offensive that could threaten humanity, but enough to help you rebuild your fleet and protect your people. Why would you do this? Thaxivor asked. His confusion was genuine. In his experience, victors took everything and gave nothing. Admiral Tae-sung answered this question. Because the galaxy is large, Emperor. There are threats out there beyond our current borders. Humanity would rather have allies than subjects. We've proven we can defeat you. Now we'd like to work with you. You're offering us an alliance? Vextal sounded incredulous. Eventually, perhaps, Minseo said. For now, we're offering peace and mutual cooperation. Trade, cultural exchange. Shared defense against common threats. What you do with that offer is up to you. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. He looked at his son, who nodded slightly. This is unexpected. The Valdine Empire has never been treated this way by a victor. The Valdine Empire has never faced humanity before, Yunji replied with a slight smile. We do things differently. We've learned from our own violent history. Endless cycles of revenge and conquest lead nowhere good. We prefer to break that cycle when we can. I need time to consider this with my advisors, Thaxivor said. Of course. Take a week. We'll be ready to continue discussions whenever you are. Yunji stood. Emperor, we respect the Valdine people and their civilization. This war was unnecessary. Let's make sure it was also the last one between our peoples. The communication ended. In Earth's command center, the human leaders looked at each other. Think it will work? Admiral Insu asked. It has to, Minseo replied. The alternative is decades of conflict, and nobody wins that kind of war. 1 week later, Emperor Thaxivor responded. The treaty was signed in a neutral location, broadcast across the galaxy. The Valdine Empire formally recognized human sovereignty. Trade agreements were established. Technology sharing began. More importantly, a message went out to every civilization watching. Humanity was strong, but also reasonable. They could destroy enemies, but preferred to make friends. This was something new in galactic politics. 6 months after the Battle of the Neutral Zone, Ambassador Velthar returned to Titan Station. The same station where he had delivered the original ultimatum. But this time, he came with diplomatic credentials instead of threats. Admiral Tae-sung met him personally. Captain Hana stood beside him as they greeted the Valdine delegation. Admiral, Velthar said formally, thank you for receiving us. Ambassador, Tae-sung replied. Welcome to Titan Station. I hope your visit is more pleasant than your last one. Velthar actually smiled slightly. Yes, I was less wise then. My emperor has asked me to deliver a personal message. He says that humanity has taught the Valdine Empire something we had forgotten, that true strength includes wisdom and restraint. In the Indomitable's rec room, Lieutenant Sangwoo and Jiwon watched news broadcasts about the treaty signing. Fighter pilots who had expected years of war were instead witnessing peace. You know what's funny? Jiwon said. We prepared for war. We got combat. But what I'll remember most is rescuing their wounded, showing them that humans could win and still care about life. Sangwoo nodded. Maybe that's the real lesson. Humanity doesn't win by being the scariest species. We win by being unexpected. by being strong enough to fight but smart enough to choose peace. Across human space, people celebrated, not because they had defeated an enemy, but because they had gained a potential ally. The Valdine Empire, once hostile, was becoming a trading partner. Their technology and humanity's technology were being shared, making both civilizations stronger. Minister Yunji stood in her office, looking at Earth from the window. Director Hyunwoo stood beside her. The Galactic Council has sent a request, Hyunwoo said. They want to open formal relations with humanity. Several other empires are interested in trade agreements. Word has spread about how we handled the Valdine situation. Good, Yunji replied. That's what we wanted. Not to be feared, but to be respected. Not to conquer, but to cooperate. Think it will last? The peace with the Valdine? Probably. They learned their lesson. The respect from other civilizations? As long as we stay true to our principles. We showed the galaxy that humans are strong. Now we need to keep showing them that we're also wise. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Tae-sung sat in his ready room, reviewing reports. Captain Hana entered with a datapad. The Valdine are requesting joint military exercises, she said. They want to learn our tactics and show us theirs. Interesting, Tae-sung replied. 6 months ago, they tried to conquer us. Now they want to train together. Times change. People change. Maybe even empires can change. Hana set down the datapad. Permission to speak freely, sir? Always. I was worried we'd become conquerors. That winning so decisively would make us arrogant. But instead we became diplomats. We proved our strength and then extended our hand. That took more courage than just winning battles. Tae-sung smiled. That's what makes us human, Captain. We remember what it's like to be on the losing side. We've fought enough wars among ourselves to know that endless conflict leads nowhere good. Now we're teaching that lesson to the galaxy. The story of humanity's encounter with the Valdine Empire spread across the stars. Other civilizations heard about the species that defeated a major empire twice, and then offered peace instead of demanding surrender. They heard about the humans who rescued enemy wounded and shared technology with defeated foes. Some species were suspicious. Some were impressed. All of them paid attention, because humanity had done something remarkable. They had arrived on the galactic stage not as conquerors or victims, but as something new. A civilization that was powerful enough to destroy enemies but wise enough to make friends instead. The Valdine had challenged humanity expecting either victory or destruction. Instead, they got partnership, whether they wanted it or not. And across the galaxy, civilizations that might have considered challenging Earth watched and reconsidered. Because the humans had proven something important. They could win wars, but more importantly, they knew when not to fight them. The age of humanity and galactic politics had begun, and the galaxy would never be quite the same.